Hey, this is Ishar, and in today's talk, I want to go over the last trait of the Big Five personality type test, and this is neuroticism. So, in my previous talks, I went over the other four traits, and this is openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and now I'm going to be going over neuroticism. So, with this particular trait, this ranks how prone you are to stress, anxiety, depression, self consciousness, just feeling vulnerable in general. So someone who scores very high in this trait, and again, this is a spectrum, so you can score anywhere between 0 to 100. Someone who scores very high in this trait tends to be very anxious. Their mood goes up and down, and they are very hyper vigilant to different threats in their environment, and they are constantly reacting to their environment rather than being proactive. And you may know a lot of people like this where they are constantly stressed out about every little thing, and every they make small things very big in their lives. So they're constantly just paranoid, stressed out, panicking all the time, and they never seem to keep their positive emotions ongoing. So their positive emotions are very fleeting, and then the rest of the time they're very negative. So dwelling in a lot of rumination, negative rumination, poor self-talk. They feel self-conscious. They feel anxious, angry at the world, like that kind of mentality. Now, someone who's very low in neuroticism tends to be very laid back, so they're not as worried. They kind of lead a very stress-free life. They're not worried about little things, and they tend to make a lot of big things small, which could be a pro and con. And they're generally very laid back and have a general sense of well-being. So if you score very low in neuroticism, you're not really bothered by too much. Now, when we look at high levels of neuroticism, you can probably see right away that there's a lot of things that aren't as beneficial. So feeling stressed out all the time, feeling anxious, depressed, and angry. Those are not, things that people generally try to seek out. However, what's not talked about as much is that there can be some benefits by being very high in neuroticism, and that is the fact that since you're overly cautious and very paranoid about things not going your way, you have an extra level of focus to detail, and you will double check your work if you're in a business type environment to make sure that you're producing the best results. So that's one of the things, and especially if you're high in conscientiousness as well, that tends to go hand in hand, where you tend to make a lot of perfect pieces of work rather than someone who's lower in neuroticism who says, okay, this is good enough, let me just put that out there. And because you're hyper aware of things that may go wrong, you tend to be good at planning and you dot all your I's and cross all your T's in the sense that you take care of things beforehand and you're pretty prepared for what could go wrong. So that's a bit better than not being prepared at all, which is sometimes what people who are low in neuroticism tend to do. And I'm accused of that because I'm pretty low in neuroticism myself. So the advantages of being very low in neuroticism is that you generally have low levels of stress. And I can't tell you the last time I was actually stressed out about something. So your life tends to be pretty just laid back. And if you're also low in conscientiousness, like that also contributes to that, where if you're low in conscientiousness and also low in neuroticism, well, you have this go with the flow kind of attitude. And that also has its cons too, but also some pros. But people who are low in narcissism generally don't get caught up by different strong emotions and they're able to let go of things very easily. Now, what I will say is that although neuroticism can be caused partly by genetics and different factors in the environment, there's certain things you can do to lower your levels of neuroticism. So one thing is meditation, and I talk about it all the time. And I personally noticed this myself because I started meditating at a young age, and I've dramatically noticed how less, worried I am about different things, or paranoid or cautious compared to my peers who are, of the same age. And I also noticed that on the days that I don't meditate, and it's been almost a decade since I missed a day of meditation, but the days I, do miss, I had missed. I have noticed that my mind will start to wander and I'm like ruminating about things or I'm self-conscious and all that as well. So meditation actually lowers your levels of neuroticism. So if you are, feeling very paranoid or anxious or prone to all these negative emotions, well, embarking on a meditation practice, say doing like an hour or 2 hours a day, can certainly dramatically lower your levels of neuroticism. And if you go further, I don't think like if you can you point me a monk or someone who's been meditating for decades who is very frazzled or very stressed out. It's very hard to find. So meditation definitely lowers your levels of narcissism. And generally what I find as far as like general overall lifestyle and how people who are high in neuroticism and low in neuroticism kind of operate on a day-to-day basis is that people who are high in neuroticism uh, tend to worry. So if you are high in neuroticism, you do want to make sure that you're conducting your life in a way that has a lot of the stresses removed, or at the very least is predictable and stable. And this will help lower those levels. Because if you have a job that has a lot of variables and things just go up and down, you will very much stress yourself out. So having a stable job that is consistent and has work that that is familiar, this will allow you to kind of have this ease about yourself and lower your levels of narcissism. However, if you're also very low in narcissism, you may enjoy that work also. That's very chill, but you may feel restless. So you may want a bit of challenge or can handle a bit of challenge or unknown if you are low in neuroticism. And if you're also high in openness, in addition to being low in neuroticism, then you definitely need things that change in your job. But if you are high in neuroticism and like say low in openness or even high in openness, you do want to be mindful of the amount of change because too much change if you're high in neuroticism can stress you out. So just be cautious of that. In terms of how people in different levels of narcissism approach friendships and social interactions, I typically find that people who are higher in neuroticism tend to need a bit more validation and reassurance from their partners. So if you do know someone who is generally just all over the place, a bit anxious, they are a bit insecure about themselves, then you can provide them a bit of reassurance and validation, and this will help them ease up a bit. Now, someone who's low in neuroticism may be careless at times because they're very low in neuroticism, so they just don't care at times. So they may be insensitive at times or be neglectful of the partner's needs. So if you're very low in neuroticism, then it might be helpful to be a bit more mindful and see how the other person is doing. Now, if you're both very low in neuroticism, then it's a very chill relationship, so no ups and downs, no crazy fights or nothing like that. But it tends to be very easy in nature. So I hope you like this talk on neuroticism and hope you like this whole series where we went over the big five personality type tests. So again, this is another tool which you can use to help understand yourself. And once again, what I find very fascinating about the big five test is that it works on a gradient. So where you fall between a spectrum will make your results very different from someone else. So this is a bit different from the Myers-Briggs systems where you're just like, four letters, right? Like the INFP, which is my type. But with the Big Five personality type test, you can be like, say, 40% in extroversion, you can be 20% in agreeableness, you can be like, 39% in neuroticism, and all this. And the ratio of your percentages and the unique combination of that will make you a bit different from someone else of the same personality type in the Myers-Briggs system. So it's kind of cool that it adds another level of complexity where understanding the results can help you really inform yourself on how to conduct your overall life. So the friendships that you have, how you approach friendships and relationships, dating situations, how you approach career choices, how you live your overall lifestyles, what cities would you live in. All these different decisions you make can be influenced by understanding your Big Five personality type test results. So again, hope you like this talk and the series, and let me know if you'd like to hear future personality type talks.